Treasure could be hiding anywhere. There might be some hiding in the ground below your feet right now. Perhaps there's some hiding in your walls or below the streets you walk along every time you go to work. You never know where the next fantastic treasure discovery will happen, but you can always rely on the fact that there's one coming. Astonishingly valuable discoveries happen all the time, all over the world. And here are just a few of some of the most incredible treasures that have happened in recent history. The Roman Empire was as rich as it was big, and during its peak years, it was very big indeed. Traces of Roman wealth still exist in the lands that they occupied during their expansion, and sometimes they're found by lucky people with metal detectors. Dave Crisp, an amateur metal detectorist who works as a chef by day, recently made the discovery of a lifetime while doing some detecting work in a field in the southwest of England. After receiving a positive response on his device, he started digging and found an ancient Roman pot that contained no less than 52,000 bronze and silver coins stamped with the face of the famed Roman general Marcus Aurelius. The officer was placed in charge of Britain during the 3rd century and was the first Roman leader to mint coins in the country. As a collection, the coins are worth a little over $1 million. Half of that money has to go to the owner of the land the treasure was found on, but $500,000 is still a great reward for an afternoon's work. Dave Crisp might be an amateur treasure seeker, but the Schmidt family of America make their living from finding treasure, and the most significant find of their lifetimes happened while they were diving close to the Floridian coast in 2015. The Schmidts were exploring a long-forgotten Spanish shipwreck that sank during a storm more than 3 centuries ago, and their curiosity was rewarded when they managed to recover a collection of 51 ultra-rare Spanish coins. The standout item was a tricentennial royal, a gold coin made specifically for King Philippe V of Spain. That one single coin is worth $500,000 to the right collector, but the remainder of the collection also adds up to $500,000, making for a nice $1 million find in total. There were more than just coins hiding in the shipwreck. The family also came back to the surface with a 40-foot-long solid gold chain. The local government of Florida are entitled to some of the proceeds of the haul, but the Schmidt family was expecting to retain the lion's share of the wealth. It's always pleasing to hear a story of a good deed being rewarded, so we hope you'll enjoy this next story, which comes from New Zealand. A team of divers had been dispatched to the bottom of the seabed to clear up plastic waste and trash from the Wellington Harbor in September 2015. But they found that not everything lying around below the waves was trash. Almost 900 gold and silver coins were taking up space down there too. It's not clear where the coins had come from, but the most likely explanation is that they fell overboard from a ship during a storm. As there doesn't appear to be any record of their loss, it might even be the case that they were aboard a pirate ship when disaster struck, and so law enforcement officials were never alerted to the incident. No value has ever been publicly given for the coin collection. However, given the level of security that they were subjected to when they were brought ashore, it's safe to assume that some of them are rare and priceless. Some discoveries are as puzzling as they are wonderful. As an example, look at this collection of tiny golden spirals, which was found in Denmark recently. Denmark has been noted for having many Bronze Age golden treasures by archaeologists in the past, but nothing quite like this hoard of 2,000 twisted gold threads has ever been found before. The spirals were found in Beslunda, where it's thought that prehistoric people brought gold tributes in the hope of being rewarded by the gods, but it's unlikely that these artifacts were used for such a purpose. They're around 3,000 years old and were most likely used as decorative items on the clothing of tribal priests or kings to symbolize the power of the sun. Quite why so many of them were stored in the same place, however, is unknown. Although each of the solid gold wires is thin, with an average length of a single inch, when added together the whole collection weighs half a pound. That means that they'd be extremely valuable if they were sold, but for now, they've gone on public display. When the British cargo ship SS Gersopa was struck by a torpedo by a German U-boat during the Second World War, it crashed to the bottom of the ocean with a cargo of solid silver bars on board. Now, after years of searching, the wreck of the vessel has been located by an American exploration company, and they believe that the 48-ton haul could be worth up to $38 million. The Odyssey Marine Exploration Company, which is based in Tampa, Florida, is especially proud of this discovery because it represents both the deepest and heaviest recovery of silver from a shipwreck in recorded history. What's left of the Gersopa eventually turned up over 15,000 feet below the surface, close to the coastline of Ireland, and thankfully the cargo had mostly been left undamaged by the violent end the vessel met with. The British government contracted the Odyssey Marine Exploration Company specifically for the task, and they'll get to share the spoils of the project between them. Tantalizingly, even though what's been found so far is worth so much money, the government thinks that it only represents 20% of what's still to be found from the cargo. If you haven't tidied out your attic for a while and you have a few family heirlooms hiding up there, it might be time to get up there and take a closer look. A British couple did precisely that in 2019 and found that they were accidentally hiding looted Indian treasure worth millions of dollars. The couple doesn't wish to be named, but it's understood that they're descendants of Major Thomas Hart, who was victorious in battle against Tipu Sultan's army in India in 1799. The Major kept some trophies of the battle, including a golden sword belonging to Hyder Ali Khan, the father of Tipu Sultan, and the former ruler of Mysore. For centuries, the precious items were kept in a trunk, wrapped in a blanket, and passed down from generation to generation. Now they might make their current owners millionaires, although many people feel that they should be given back to India since they're technically stolen goods. Our next discovery comes from Kazakhstan, where a phenomenal amount of gold and jewelry has been discovered inside a burial mound in the Tarbagatai Mountains. The area of the mountains, which are close to the country's border with China, was once the home of the Sakha people. The Sakha roamed across the land between Asia and India for centuries, until they were conquered during the 4th century. But it's thought that the burial mound belonged to a powerful Sakha leader. That makes the treasure collection at least 1,600 years old, and possibly even older. Based on what's been found, it's obvious the Sakha were experts when it came to working with metal and gold. Some of the smallest items in the collection are a series of golden sculptures of animals that show signs of micro-soldering. Considering the lack of technology available to the people of that time, the level of skill involved in creating them is astonishing. We'll probably never know the identity of the person buried with the treasure, but they likely lived an exceptionally lavish lifestyle. We might have missed out on this collection of ancient Roman coins had it not been for the sharp eye and quick thinking of some Italian construction workers. The abandoned Cressoni Theater in the city of Como was in the middle of being demolished when a worker spotted something gold lurking in the corner of the basement. He turned off his machinery and went to inspect it by hand, and that's when he realized he was looking at an ancient jug. The demolition work had broken the side of the jar, which is a shame, but the damage had led to gold coins spilling out across the floor. When experts were called and the jug was fully excavated, it was found to contain more than 300 coins stamped with references to Honorius, Antonio, and Livio Severo, all of whom are former Roman emperors and allow us to say that the coins are a minimum of 2,500 years old. It seems that someone deliberately concealed them behind a wall in the basement, but never came back to collect them. Their loss is now archaeology's gain. When a Frenchman inherited a large, old home from a relative following their passing in 2016, he probably already considered himself fortunate, but he had no idea how lucky he truly was. He had no intention of keeping the house or anything in it, and so he invited an auctioneer to assess the contents. As they moved furniture around in the house to look at it more closely, they discovered a hoard of golden treasure weighing more than 220 pounds hidden away out of sight. The vast collection includes more than 5,000 separate pieces, including solid gold ingots. The more they looked, the more gold they found, including coins hidden in a bottle of whiskey and jewelry in a box nailed to the underside of a table. Fortunately, some certificates were also discovered, which proved that the gold had been purchased legally during the 1960s and 1970s. That meant the lucky heir had the legal right to sell it all on to interested parties, which he did in return for a total sum of more than $3.5 million. Viking artifacts are currently worth more than they have been in decades, thanks to the popularity of the Vikings television series, which has provoked new interest in the ancient warrior race. That means that the Silverdale Hoard, which was found near Lancaster in England, couldn't have been found at a better time. More than 200 items of Viking jewelry and silver make up the collection, which was found in a field by an amateur archaeologist with a metal detector. As well as financial value, the hoard brought a fresh historical perspective with it when it was brought to the surface. Some of the silver was marked with the name Erdenkunat, along with the motto Dominus Rex. The Latin phrase identifies Erdekunat as a king, but this is a king that history previously had no record of. It's thought that the collection comes from around the year 900, and so Erdekunat will now have to be added to the official history of that era in the country. The hoard has officially been declared as treasure by the Deputy Coroner of Lancashire and has been bought by the state to be placed on display. Many of us are familiar with the concept of having a best set of silverware or crockery, the kind of plates and dining utensils that you only get out of storage when you're hosting an exceptionally important meal. The tradition of having a special meal set clearly goes back well over 1,500 years, because a fine dining set known as the Vinkovci treasure turned up in Croatia in 2012. There are just under 50 items in the collection, including ornately designed plates and cups with elaborate etchings on their surface. Testing of the items has shown that they're made of locally sourced silver, which implies they were made in and around the Vinkovci area at some point during the 4th century. That means that they date back to Roman rule in the country, a fact backed up by the fact that some of the plates bear an inscription proclaiming that they were made by Antoninus Aquila. The treasure was found during government-sponsored construction work in the center of the town and was immediately put on public display at the Museum of Arts and Crafts in Zagreb, where it still is today. Finding a shipwreck in the middle of the desert would be considered very strange. Finding a shipwreck full of forgotten gold in the middle of the desert sounds totally ridiculous, and yet it happened in Namibia in 2016. According to the experts who've had the chance to assess the site of the shipwreck, which is on the so-called skeleton coast of the country, it's the remains of a Portuguese ship called the Bom Jesus, which was on its way from Lisbon to India when it vanished without a trace in 1533. It's not known how the ship came to meet its end, but the skeletons of some of the crew were still aboard, keeping a silent watch over gold and copper ingots, elephant tusks, and 500-year-old cannons. Considering that it's all been left abandoned and untended for so many years, the treasure collection is in remarkably good condition and has been valued at approximately $11 million. Portugal has waived its claim to the treasure, and so Namibia will profit from it if it decides to sell it. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and enjoy watching new videos on my channel. Thanks for watching, and see you soon!